So today's garden visit is Doneraile Park. A lovely setting in North Cork. And the entrance is easy to find. Come in through the village, or you can come in from the Charleville side coming from the village. The entrance is on your right coming from Charleville. The entrance is on your left. It's directly across from Doneraile Golf Club. And if the entrance vista is anything to go by, then the inside of this place must be something else. So enjoy your visit. There's loads of car parking. There's a playground for children, and there's a tea room up at the back, but more about that anon. I'm looking forward to this.
A Greek proverb once said that a great society grows old when men plant trees in whose shade they will never sit. And a statement like that is very true of places like Doneraile Park, where I am in North Cork at the minute. I didn't pick the greatest day, it has to be said, to come here in terms of the weather, but I'm here and we're going to have a look around. Behind me you can see Doneraile Court, the house that goes with the estate. 300 hectares, currently under the management of the Office of Public Works. And it has to be said, it's a magnificent place. These are the kind of gardens that I love, probably because I'll never have one. And many of us, the vast majority of us, never will. These gardens take massive amounts of time to look after, massive amounts of labour, and they were built at a time when labour was both plentiful and cheap. Now you'd need machinery and some labour, obviously, some manual labour, but a huge amount of machinery to keep all these areas properly maintained. But it's well worth it, and the Office of Public Works do a magnificent job here. So Doneraile Court, as you can see there, the house itself, it was built in the 1720s. There's a family presence recorded on this domain since the 1630s, and the family most associated with it are the St. Ledgers. And anyone who has any interest or any knowledge at all in horse racing will have heard of the St. Ledger, and that's the same family who lent their name to that famous race. But there's an even more relevant connection to Ireland and horse racing and Doneraile Court, and that's the steeplechase. And in 1752 there was an argument between Cornelius O'Callaghan and Edmund Blake, who were landed gentry in the area at the time, one of them here in Doneraile. The other one was in Buttevant, and one of them thought the other fella's horse was better, and they challenged each other to a race from St. John's Church of Ireland in Buttevant to St. Mary's Church of Ireland in Doneraile. The race at that time was approximately 4 miles long, 6.4 kilometres if you want to go down that route, and it was over fences and ditches and all sorts of things that you'd meet along the way. So that's where the name steeplechase came from. Doneraile Court itself, there's a tour of the house available, and if the outside is anything to go by, then the inside must be magnificent. The place opens Thursdays to Sundays, 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock, and there is a charge because there's a tour and you can't just go in and wander around. You have to go on the tour, and I can understand that too. That just makes sense. And that costs very reasonable, €8. There's a coffee shop out at the back there, and you can just meander around here for hours. As I said earlier on, there's 300 hectares and there's lots to see. If you like your plants, if you like big plants, if you like trees particularly, and I certainly do, then this is a place that you should definitely visit. How peaceful is that? Imagine growing up here and having nobody around as you walk through these trees and listen to the sounds of the animals and the noise of the water. How peaceful is it? So we'll go over this way here and we'll demonstrate, we'll show where the Capability Brown used the serpentine effect of the lakes. So he would have had a bridge, and you can just see it here. It's only a small bridge, but it's a bridge nonetheless. You can see the bridge there under the trees, this little metal thing. Very small compared to the grand ones that Capability Brown would have used, but deliberately placed by the waterfall. So as you're coming across, you would have had the effects of the waterfall. And then down along here to an open area where there was a lake. And this would have been artificially dug out and fed by a river, in this case the Aubeg River, coming from Buttevant. And then it would have disappeared over into the trees. So that gave the impression of something that was much more dramatic and grand than the sum of its parts, if you like. But it certainly worked when you're back up there looking down. Capability Brown had only one garden that I can make out in Ireland, and that's a hotel now. So you can't actually get access to it, which is a shame, above in County Laois. But c'est la vie. Now, I mentioned the ha-ha earlier on, and people look at me sometimes when I talk about a ha-ha. Well, it is a real thing, and this is a perfect example of it. So, what it was designed to do was to keep the animals away from the formal gardens that usually surrounded the house. Now, it has to be said, there's a hedge at the top of this ha-ha. You can see the wall there. You can see a yew perfectly clipped, or well clipped, yew hedge at the top of it. And as you go farther down towards the formal gardens, you can see the ha-ha and exactly how it would have worked. So there would have been animals where I am walking right now, and they would have been prevented from going into the formal gardens by the ha-ha. And this is how it's worked. We'll walk down a little bit into it now, just so that you can see. So the animals wouldn't have been able to climb up that vertical wall. So there's a slope down to the base of the ha-ha, and you can see that it's quite a height. The guts are 2 meters, that would be about right. And it goes the whole way along the front of the house and a good way down away from it, beyond the formal gardens, where you can put a fence that's not seen. So the unsightly look of a fence was taken away, and you had this magnificent feature which allowed the people in the big house to see the animals, to appreciate the animals and nature. But of course, they didn't get to interfere then in the formality of a formal garden behind. So another trick of Capability Brown's was to have clumps of trees. Now you can see it here. This is an actually very, very good example. And this is a clump of trees leading into the formal gardens. You can see them there in the back. So there's 6, 7, 8 trees in this particular little clump here. So what Capability Brown would have done was planted maybe 30 trees in there. And over the course of a few years, he would have planted them when they're saplings, or maybe half standards or standards, but he would have planted them when they're relatively small. And as they developed, he would take out the weaker ones, or the less attractive ones, and he would have kept the stronger ones. So you get the best trees that are left. And you can see here, like, he would never have planted those 8 trees that far apart originally. That just wouldn't have happened. So you can see what he's done, and by then selecting the good ones, you're left with the best in a lovely area with trees. And again, he raises the canopy of them. So it cuts off the lower branches so that you can walk in around those trees. This was also done out in the parkland where animals could walk. Now the animals usually did the clipping because you know, they just wandered in around, and anything low down they ate. Which meant that originally, and for several years after being planted, they were fenced off so that the animals didn't get to the small trees. So these kind of things took time to develop, and that was one of the things that Capability Brown was very, very good at doing. One of the attractions here, and I'm trying not to frighten this deer and her fawn, is the deer. And of course, they would have had such animals back here in the day, back when the big house was in its heyday. And the reason, of course, that they would have had it wasn't so that they could have had pets, but so that they could have had food, and so that they could have gone hunting. But look at this. Isn't this amazing to get so close? But of course you're not going to get in there. There are stags in there, and they're fairly protective. And so are the mothers. Look at her. See her stamping her feet? That's telling me to get out of the way. You see the way the fawn has gone in? Look. See that? That's a warning to me to get out of the way. So we won't trouble her. We won't bother her, even though she's probably used to people gawking in at her all day. So that's Doneraile Park. Hope you've enjoyed it. I think I've covered everything. Certainly got most of the things in there to tickle your interest. Well worth a visit. Come down, especially on a day like today, and you can take your time walking around. There's loads more walks that I haven't shown you, and you'll spot loads of more plants. Keep an eye out for the next video. I'll talk to you then. Thanks a lot.